Welcome back to the channel. Most of the time, we imagine killers as those who lurk in the shadows, striking when people are unaware or defenseless. But today's case will show us the shocking boldness and shamelessness of a murderer unlike any other. A pregnant woman was attacked right in front of her child and the entire community of a peaceful residential town. The man moved swiftly, pulled out a gun, fired, and then walked away casually, as if he had just purchased something from a store. When the crime was later reviewed through surveillance cameras, it left everyone in shock and disbelief. So who was he? What kind of past could twist someone into such a disturbing figure? And what was his motive in targeting the victim? Was it for fame, revenge, or some twisted declaration to the world? Right now, let's dive deep into this story and unravel step by step a case unlike anything ever seen before in distant Romania. And as always, before we get into the details, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next chilling cases we cover on this channel. At about 7:10 p.m. on the 31st of May 2025, in Cosmopolis, a new residential development in Ilfov County, just north of Bucharest City, the capital, residents were busy preparing dinner when a series of loud cracks echoed through the air. The sound instantly drew everyone's attention. In the middle of the shopping area, they saw a pregnant woman collapsed in pain, while next to her, a young child cried out in distress. Then, another woman came running in panic. She screamed, "Teodora, what's happening?" But all she received in return was a vacant stare and clothing soaked in red. The friend immediately dialed 112 to call the police and an ambulance. Within minutes, the wail of sirens cut through the tense and stunned atmosphere of the upscale community. For the first time, Cosmopolis witnessed such a terrifying scene. The 3-year-old clung to his mother, crying, while the friend tried to comfort the child through her tears. Just minutes after the call, officers from Voluntari City Police, the unit responsible for the area, arrived and secured the scene. Teodora was still faintly breathing at that moment, and she was given first aid before being rushed to Floriesca Hospital in Bucharest City. The crime scene was right in front of the gates of Cosmopolis Plaza, the local shopping center, at the crosswalk where the victim had collapsed. Investigators quickly collected 4 shell casings scattered on the pavement and sidewalk. Streaks of blood stretching several feet indicated that the victim had tried to struggle or move after being struck. Teodora's cell phone was found in the grass nearby. The screen still lit with a recently ended call later confirmed to be from a family member warning her. This chilling detail unsettled investigators. Teodora had known she was being watched, yet tragedy struck too quickly. In addition, police discovered a small bag containing a white powder near the scene. The powder was sent for testing to determine if it was an illegal substance and whether the suspect might have been under its influence. What's striking is that the area was filled with surveillance cameras and brightly lit street lamps. Yet the attacker acted so boldly. Initial camera footage showed a man approaching the victim, pulling a gun, and firing several shots at close range. Afterward, he calmly turned and walked away, leaving the young woman collapsed on the street. Seeing the 3-year-old frozen in shock beside his mother's blood left everyone shaken and outraged. At that point, the victim's identity was quickly confirmed through her ID. Teodora Marcu, 23 years old. The name immediately reminded some officers of the well-known reality show Insula Iubiri, which had been airing on national television. So what connection did the victim have with that popular TV show? Teodora Marcu, born around 2001-2002, was the youngest daughter in a working-class family from Onesti, a town in northeastern Romania. According to relatives, she was gentle, academically strong, and had never caused any trouble growing up. But at just 14, Teodora was drawn into an unhealthy relationship. Her boyfriend at the time was 38 years old, 24 years her senior. Teodora's family strongly opposed this unusual relationship, leading to repeated conflicts with the man. Eventually, due to escalating arguments and abusive behavior, Teodora was forced to end it. By 18, she was determined to start fresh. Teodora moved to Brașov, where she got engaged to Alex Marcu, a performing artist 13 years older than her. The couple soon married, and by 2022, they welcomed their first daughter, now 3 years old. That same year, the young couple participated in the TV game show Insula Iubiri, both to test their relationship and to gain attention on national television. Thanks to her friendly personality and attractive appearance, Teodora Marcu quickly became known to viewers. After the show, the couple returned to their everyday life and settled in Brasov, a beautiful city in central Romania. It seemed like Teodora had finally found happiness with her husband and child. But no one could have imagined that the shadows of her past would not let her go. Her much older, former lover, who we'll refer to as Robert Lupu, began reaching out again and harassing her. Teodora often told her family that he stalked her and sent threatening messages, leaving her in constant fear and unease. By late 2024, the young couple decided to move to the suburbs of Bucharest, since Alex's work as a performer often required him to be in the capital. They chose the Cosmopolis residential complex in Ilfov County, hoping its gated environment and tight security would shield them from the harasser. In early 2025, Teodora became pregnant with her second child. The couple was excited and full of hope as they awaited the new baby. But that happiness was short-lived. At 6 months pregnant, she lost her life in a brutal shooting. Investigators outlined two main theories. Either it was a robbery gone wrong, though unlikely since her belongings were untouched, or it was an act driven by personal hatred. The most valuable leads came from the security cameras. The Cosmopolis security team handed over all the footage to police that very night. Reviewing the video again and again, investigators saw that the suspect appeared to have been waiting nearby, suddenly crossing the street, blocking Teodora's path, and firing without warning. Once she fell, he immediately walked away. That night, May 31, police opened an intentional homicide case to begin the investigation. Police immediately locked down Cosmopolis and nearby areas, as witnesses reported that after the attack, the suspect ran deeper into the residential complex. Security camera footage confirmed that he hadn't left through the main gates but disappeared further inside within minutes. The Cosmopolis management quickly emailed all residents, warning them about a dangerous intruder and sharing detailed maps of the property to aid the police search. Dozens of police officers along with the special unit known as MASS were deployed, searching every building and parking lot. Residents were instructed to remain inside their homes and avoid going out until further notice. While the manhunt was underway, forensic teams hurriedly conducted examinations and gathered evidence. Preliminary forensic results showed the victim had been struck by 4 bullets, 1 to the head, 2 to the abdomen, and 1 lower shot. The trajectory and marks on her skin indicated the shots were fired at very close range, almost point blank. This aligned with the theory that the shooter deliberately targeted the mother's abdomen, intending to harm both her and the unborn child. The recovered bullets were 9mm Luger, consistent with the wounds, suggesting the weapon used was a .35 caliber semi-automatic pistol. This was not a common civilian weapon, since Romanian law bans military-grade firearms for private use. Investigators therefore suspected the gun was owned illegally. Forensic police expanded their search and discovered an additional magazine dropped in nearby bushes, still loaded with 14 intact rounds. This was likely a spare magazine the assailant carried while fleeing. Testimonies from witnesses at the scene added another critical lead. One witness reported seeing the shooter jump into a nearby car and drive deeper into the complex. According to the description, it was a dark-colored Ford Fiesta. Police searched the parking areas and quickly located a gray Ford Fiesta with Baco license plates, parked in a remote corner of the residential complex. The car was locked and empty. A quick check revealed that it was registered to Robert Lupu, 49 years old, originally from Harlau in Baco County. The name struck one investigator, who recalled that social media earlier that afternoon had been buzzing about a strange status posted from an account under the alias Robert W. Hours before the crime, this Facebook account had posted a picture of a middle-aged man drinking coffee, with the chilling caption, "It's only a matter of time." At the time, few understood its meaning, but now, that sentence seemed like a grim premonition of the tragedy that had just occurred. Police suspected that Robert Lupu was in fact Robert Wolf, and very likely the man responsible for attacking Teodora Marcu. Moreover, the name Robert matched the personal history of Teodora. Her friends confirmed that Robert was indeed the disturbed ex-boyfriend who had obsessively pursued her during her teenage years. Combining all the evidence from the motive of jealous hatred to the camera footage and the car registered under the suspect's name, police issued an emergency manhunt order for Robert Lupu within the Cosmopolis area. Checkpoints were set up at the residential gates and along possible escape routes to the ring road. The tense manhunt lasted over 4 hours, with special units deploying police dogs and infrared drones to sweep every vacant lot. By 9 p.m., they discovered a suspicious trace on the lawn near a villa, tiny drops of blood scattered across the grass. Following the trail, officers reached a half-finished construction site, shrouded in darkness. At 10:45 p.m., a sudden noise erupted behind a shipping container. The task force closed in, shouting, "Police, drop your weapon, and Medican dispedal who capen unifave." What came back was a deafening gunshot. As they stormed forward, police found a man sprawled on the ground, a handgun still smoking by his side. There was no doubt the suspect, Robert Lupu, also known as Robert Wolf, had taken his own life, ending his brief flight from justice. On examining the body, investigators seized 2 handguns, one .35 caliber pistol, and a smaller caliber weapon of Belgian origin, along with multiple magazines. Preliminary comparison showed that the .35 caliber pistol matched both the bullets and the wounds on the victim, confirming it was the murder weapon. The crime scene examination also revealed that Robert Lupu had not fought back against the police but had simply hidden until cornered, when he chose to end his own life. Right after the case, the prosecutor's office announced that the investigation would continue in 2 directions. First, to clarify all of the suspect's criminal acts even though he was dead, in order to complete the legal record. Second, to trace the origin of the 2 guns to identify who had illegally supplied them. Both firearms recovered had serial numbers, allowing police to track their sale history. One came from Italy, the other from Belgium. Both belonged to weapon lines intended only for police, military, or officials, not legally accessible to civilians. This confirmed that Robert Lupu had possessed weapons illegally. The lead was handed over to the police in Bako, the suspect's hometown, for further investigation, with the possibility of expanding it into a weapons smuggling case. On the other hand, the phone and computer of Robert Lupu were also seized for investigation. Detectives discovered that in the week leading up to the crime, he had posted several hateful messages on Facebook, most of them targeting women. He implied that some women believed having children could wash away their sins, but in his words, the sins are still there. These posts revealed his distorted obsession and his intention for revenge. One status in particular, reading, "It's only a matter of time," was posted just hours before the crime, proving it had been planned in advance. Criminal psychologists concluded that the attacker acted out of a revenge-driven obsession, with years of suppressed anger finally erupting into violence when the timing felt right. The family of the victim, Teodora, revealed that just minutes before she was attacked, she received a warning phone call from her godmother, who said she had seen Robert Lupu lurking around her neighborhood. At that moment, Teodora admitted that she too had spotted him earlier that day near a children's playground. Believing he wouldn't dare to act in such a crowded place, she chose not to call the police. Her relatives also shared that for the entire week before the tragedy, Teodora had phoned home several times, saying she was being stalked to the point of mental breakdown. The family advised her to report it immediately to the police, but perhaps out of fear or hesitation, she never had the chance to seek help before the tragedy struck. Security cameras showed that the attacker had been stalking the area for the entire day of May 31. Around 12 p.m, he was already spotted lingering near the Cosmopolis complex. This demonstrated his determination to carry out the crime. Investigators also raised the possibility of an accomplice, questioning whether someone might have helped him track the victim's schedule or whereabouts. Through interrogation, police discovered that an acquaintance named Diana had previously assisted Robert in following Teodora and her husband back in 2021. However, there was still no evidence connecting her to the current plan. Police also worked to confirm whether the victim's husband, Alex Marcu, had any involvement in the case. At the time of the tragedy, Alex was performing in Moldova and only learned of the incident when he returned late that night. He had a clear alibi and was removed from the suspect list. However, an unexpected twist followed. In his grief, Alex lost control and sent threatening messages to the 8-year-old daughter of Robert Lupu. The suspect's family quickly reported this, prompting police in Baku to place the young woman under temporary protection. Although Alex insisted he wouldn't act recklessly, the police maintained surveillance to prevent another tragedy. This showed how emotions escalated in the aftermath of the crime, but thankfully it was brought under control in time. By early June 2025, after gathering sufficient evidence and testimonies, investigators concluded that Robert Lupu was the sole perpetrator. The homicide investigation was closed because the perpetrator had died. The case file was then redirected to support prosecution for illegal weapons possession. However, before fully closing the matter, police and prosecutors still wanted to address lingering questions. What had turned Robert Lupu into a killer? And could this tragedy have been prevented earlier if the authorities had acted more decisively from the start? Robert Lupu was born around 1976 inches Baku. He had an unhappy childhood. His father died young, his mother abandoned him, and he grew up in an orphanage. People around him described Lupu as short-tempered and quarrelsome. He once worked as a taxi driver in Brasov, but survived mainly through shady dealings. His criminal record was filled with dark marks. He was convicted 3 times in the 2000s in Romania for theft, assault, and illicit activities related to adult services. In total, he served about 5 months in prison. In 2005, he was also given a 4-month suspended sentence by a court in Milan, Italy, for theft abroad. Lupu had once married and fathered a daughter, but the marriage ended in divorce, leaving a fractured relationship with his child. During his days in Baku, neighbors said he lived with a group of women working in online video chat and often showed suspicious behavior, seemingly hinting at involvement in questionable adult services. In 2015, Robert Lupu met Teodora Marcu, then 14 years old, and developed a deviant relationship with her. He was a predator, exploiting the victim's innocence to satisfy his sick ego. Teodora's family repeatedly fought with him to stop him, but Lupu was always aggressive, controlling, and extremely jealous. After a stressful period, Teodora left him for a new love, her current husband, Alex Marcu. This made Lupu go crazy. He thought she had betrayed him for someone else, and from there, he harbored deep hatred. Lupu even became obsessed with the idea of punishing Teodora. Throughout 2020-2021, Robert Lupu did not let go of his ex-lover. He constantly followed Teodora and Alex everywhere, even chasing them on the road. In March 2021, Lupu ambushed the couple in a village in Dolj, killing them with the complicity of his friend. After the incident, Teodora and Alex filed a complaint against Lupu, and she requested an emergency protection order from the Baku court. In February 2021, the Baku court granted a 4-month protection order, prohibiting Lupu from approaching Teodora. In the petition, the victim also asked the court to disarm him on suspicion of possessing a gun, but this request was rejected due to insufficient evidence. Lupu then went into hiding for several months, waiting for the protection order to expire before returning to harass the victim again. Before the wedding, Lupu even broke into Teodora's home to steal, vandalize, and issue threats against both her and her husband. What was alarming was how easily he escaped consequences each time. Witnesses around him would cover for him, ensuring he faced no punishment. For instance, during the altercation in Dolj, one of his friends told police that he hadn't seen anything. As a result, for years, Lupu roamed free, seemingly untouchable by the law. Meanwhile, Teodora lived under constant fear. In 2024, Robert Lupu self-published a memoir with a title that roughly translated to The Life of a Coward and the Things He Analyzed. In this book, he openly bragged about the times he terrorized Teodora, describing his actions with a smug tone. For example, he detailed an ambush in 2021 where he slapped Teodora and Alex, proudly calling it an early wedding gift. He gloated that the assault had given him a sense of satisfaction. This disturbing memoir revealed Lupu's twisted mindset: contempt for the law, deep resentment toward women, and a willingness to use extreme behavior to punish anyone who opposed him. He even admitted that as far back as 2021, he had considered ending Teodora and Alex's lives, but at the time, he had not followed through. The fact that Lupu could openly confess to such unlawful acts without facing consequences led many to question the authorities' ability to stop dangerous offenders. Then, in May 2025, when he saw Teodora post pictures of her happy pregnancy online, it became the final straw for him. He convinced himself that she was trying to wash away her sins by having a child with another man, a so-called offense he could not tolerate. At that point, his jealousy and hatred reached their breaking point. Lupu began planning to kill the woman he had been obsessing over for years. At 49 years old, he had long lived in isolation, with no real ties to anyone, which made him a ticking time bomb. On Facebook, he changed his profile picture to that of a lone wolf, signaling that he saw himself as a predator. What no one realized was that this wolf was preparing to unleash a crime that would shock the nation. On the night of the 30th of May 2025, Robert Lupu left town carrying 2 firearms, beginning his grim journey toward Bucharest. The next day, May 31, he appeared in the Cosmopolis residential complex where his intended victim lived. Throughout the afternoon, Lupu lingered near the playground, making Theodora anxious enough to call her godmother. However, she chose not to contact the police, believing she didn't yet have enough evidence to prove his intentions. At around 6:55 p.m., Theodora took her young daughter to the supermarket for groceries. As she approached the entrance of Cosmopolis Plaza, Robert Lupu suddenly emerged, drawing his weapon and aiming directly at her from close range. Desperately, Theodora tried to shield her child, but she was struck multiple times in the chest and stomach. As she was collapsing, Lupu advanced and fired one final fatal shot to her head. After the attack, Lupu fled the scene. The manhunt stretched through the night and ended when he took his own life at an abandoned construction site nearby. This brutal killing shocked the entire nation of Romania and sparked heated debate about why authorities had failed to intervene earlier against a man with a long record of stalking and threatening women. Although no criminal trial could take place since the perpetrator was already dead, the case of Theodora Marcu became a trial in the court of public opinion. In the days that followed, a civil rights organization issued a statement condemning the authorities' negligence in handling Theodora's repeated pleas for protection. They pointed out that Theodora had reported Lupu multiple times from when he chased her car menacingly on the 1st of May 2021, to the later incidents of break-ins, theft, and physical assaults. Even though she obtained a protective order in 2021, authorities failed to closely monitor the situation once it expired, nor did they take decisive action against Lupu's repeated offenses. FAS and many legal experts concluded that Theodora's tragic death could have been prevented if the justice system had been stricter. Mounting public pressure is now forcing stakeholders to reassess their responsibilities and work on improving protections for victims of domestic violence and stalking in the future. And what about you? Do you believe there's a way to prevent tragedies like this while still protecting the legal rights of everyone involved? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation with me and my team. We'd love to hear your perspectives and feedback on today's story. Before you go, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support our work and ensure more gripping true crime stories in the future. For now, we'll say goodbye and see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place.